In this field test, we'll be looking at two wide-angle lenses, the Olympus M Zuiko 8mm f1.8 fisheye and the 7-14mm f2.8 Pro wide-angle zoom. I'll be in the company of DP review writer Dan Bracalia. Dan is a recent transplant from New York City and a keen music and skate photographer. As Dan's manager, I spend a lot of time trying to explain to him that life isn't just rock bands and skateboards. But against my better judgment, that's exactly what we'll be photographing with these two lenses. We'll also be shooting a landscape to satisfy traditionalists like me. Our first stop is the Shakedown in Bellingham, a city an hour and a half north of Seattle. We're here to photograph the Hoot Hoots, who've driven up for the night to play a show. As well as action shots, we'll also be capturing some video footage and using the 8mm fisheye to get some staged, flashlit band portraits. In addition to live music and skateboarding, Dan is also an accomplished portrait and editorial photographer and uses wide-angle lenses for much of his work.
You know, I didn't have the chops to be a musician, right. So the next most rock and roll thing you can do is be a photographer.
Yeah, it's like being in that, weirdly you're kind of in that gang but never quite really in.
Exactly.
Olympus's M Zuiko Pro lenses are the company's top of the line. Intended to be paired with Olympus's high-end mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras, the M Zuiko 8mm f1.8 fisheye and 7-14mm f2.8 Pro wide-angle zoom represent the best optics that Olympus can create. The M Zuiko Digital ED 7-14mm f2.8 Pro is a fast wide-angle zoom lens which covers an equivalent focal length range of 14 to 28mm. The M Zuiko Digital ED 8mm f1.8 Fisheye Pro is a 16mm equivalent fisheye lens which offers a 180-degree angle of view and a minimum working distance of 2.5cm. Despite its small size, it's a dense, complex lens which contains 17 elements and features Olympus's zero coating to keep flare and ghosting under control. A customizable L function button can be assigned to one of 27 functions, and a manual focus clutch makes switching between automatic and manual focus very easy, without touching any on-camera controls. It's dark, it's sweaty, it's noisy, and Dan is in his element.
So I want you guys to look this way and look at me like you hate my guts. Yeah! So here are a couple quick tips about getting good rock and roll pictures. Tip number 1, talk to the venue, talk to the bouncers, talk to the band, get permission, you'll be in good shape if you get the access. Tip number 2, shoot raw, shoot a lot of photos, don't be afraid to push that ISO super high up, you'll be happy you did. Tip number 3, move around a lot, get a lot of shots, change up your lens, change up your focal length, change up your exposure.
With the live music shots in the bag and late night food truck tacos in our stomachs, we headed back to Seattle. Our next location for this field test is a local skate park. We want to use these Olympus wide-angle lenses to get some dynamic shots of our skater, Trey, as he completes a series of tricks.
Dan, where are we? What are we doing?
So we're at Jefferson Skate Park here today in Seattle, and we're going to be shooting some skateboarding. We have the 8mm fisheye and the 7-14mm lens. We have our skateboarder Trey. We're going to shoot some still stuff and some video.
So what are the biggest challenges when shooting this kind of thing?
Not every trick gets landed every try. Some tricks will take 20, 25, 30 tries to land. Some will take 1 or 2. And it's basically making sure you're hitting the shutter at the exact right moment, the exact time that trick is landed. Yeah, that looks great. That works really well.
This reminds me of my youth, watching the cool kids skateboard and not participating. Ultra-wide-angle lenses, small apertures obviously because of the light. I mean, we don't have to worry too much about focus, presumably. This is just timing. Right?
Exactly, and that's one nice factor about shooting in really bright light is focus is less critical. You sort of set your focus ahead of time. You've got a lot of room to work with.
While Dan follows Trey, shooting video with the 8mm fisheye, I position myself at ground level with the 7-14mm, shooting upwards to capture a sequence of images of Trey jumping off a ramp.
I'm just trying to get a clean shot of Trey doing something called an alley in continuous frame rate with the 7-14mm.
Yeah!
With ultra-wide-angle lenses, you often need to be very close to your subject to get the most interesting compositions. When that subject is doing tricks on a skateboard, things can get pretty scary. These lenses are built to withstand the elements, but I don't want to test them against an errant skateboard.
You've been setting up a light stand.
I have, yes. So it might seem a little odd to be, using a flash in broad daylight. It'll actually help quite a bit in post to, pull them out of the background just a little bit.
When you get back on this, just do some tricks and stuff.
I'll try not to laugh. Yeah.
Before we left, Dan took a moment to give me some key pointers on skating.
So you're gonna push with your back foot and you're just gonna push, then cruise and put it on like that. There you go. And then another push.
Whoa.
As soon as you get a little slow, give it another push. There you go.
Whoa. At the age of 33, I'm slowly becoming the cool 11-year-old that I never was.
There you go.
Thank
you
you,
can
Dan.
live vicariously through yourself.
Thank you so much. Oh, phone.
We shot even more images at the skate park than we did in Bellingham. And even on the back of the camera, it's obvious that both of these lenses are capable of extremely good results. Even shooting with the sun in the frame, flare is very well controlled and sharpness is high edge to edge.
That was great. I think that went really well.
Yeah.
We get some good video, we get some good still shots, we get some good sequences. I'm really happy.
So we've got one thing left to do. I know we've shot live music now, we've shot the skating, we've used these dynamic wide angles off to their best extent at this point, I think. We want to really show what the lenses can actually do in terms of resolution. So the next thing is landscapes.
Yeah, sounds great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Dan. This was fun.
My pleasure.
So where have we come to now?
So we're in Alki Beach, which is in West Seattle, and we're gonna shoot this beautiful sunset behind us and get a really pretty picture to finish this off.
We're here to photograph the sunset using the 7-40mm lens. And for the first time in this field test, we're using a tripod and deliberately shooting at an optimal aperture for even sharpness across the frame.
So we've left the 16mm back in the office, we've shot that to death with the rock band and the skating and everything else. So we want to use the 7-14mm. What are we going to do with that tonight?
So we're going to use the 7-14 at its widest end, so 7mm, 14mm equivalent. And we're going to set it up kind of low to the ground and fill the foreground with some of these logs and driftwood, and then just get a beautiful sunset coming over the mountains, filling the sound here with some hopefully really nice light.
Great.
Shooting straight into the sun, we should also be able to test Olympus's zero coating too, which should minimize flare and ghosting.
I'll probably shoot at an aperture of about f5.6, just because on this camera it's about an f11 equivalent.
This is probably a good time to mention the fact that these lenses are splash-proof.
Thank God for that, huh?
Both of these lenses are truly impressive, especially given their relatively small size and weight. Although it probably won't be an everyday lens for most photographers, the 8mm f1.8 fisheye is extremely effective for some types of photography, and optically it's top-notch. Compared to the fisheye, the 7-40mm f2.8 is more practical in day-to-day use. And the only serious disadvantage that we found in our shooting is the inability to add a front-mounted filter. But to be fair, that's a problem common to ultra-wide-angle lenses of this type. Like the fisheye, we've been very impressed by its performance and build quality. And both lenses should keep Micro Four Thirds users very happy indeed. I'm Barney Britton from dpreview.com. Thanks for watching.